It is being speculated that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York could run for president in the 2028 election. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be exploring her chances beating JD Vance in a hypothetical 2028 matchup. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. And if you have an idea for a matchup in the comments down below, make sure to go ahead and drop your thoughts. So looking at my electoral map, we are going to be using the margins of 0 to 1 of a percentage point margin as tilt, 1 to 5 as lean, 5 to 10 as likely, and plus 10 being in the safe Republican column. These are the 2024 results with that respective shading. Looking at the 2028 election, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, all of Nebraska except the 2nd Congressional District, Kansas, Oklahoma, Alaska, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and South Carolina would all be in that Republican column. We see that Utah would actually move about 3 points to the left from where it was in 2024, given some of the trends in the Salt Lake City area, which are making the state slightly more liberal over time. There are a lot of establishment Republicans that don't like Trumpism or the populist movement, and that's going to make the state gradually move to the left over the next couple of decades. So we see that in my projected forecast right here. We can also see that JD Vance does actually make some improvements from Trump. For example, Montana is a 20-point win here. JD ends up winning Montana by nearly 24 points. Nebraska is a much better margin of victory for JD. So JD still makes some improvements in some of these Appalachian states where this is his bread and butter, guys. I mean, this is where Vance is from. And with GOP registration trends and the fact that Vance would probably win the popular vote in this election quite easily, even compared to Trump, would actually play a huge factor in it. Other states that would be safe, including the state of Texas, which would be an 11.5-point win, which would be slightly smaller from Trump's victory. Vance would probably improve in some of the border counties. AOC may make some improvements in like Dallas and Houston, very marginal gains, but Vance would probably do better in like rural, Texas. So overall, a similar performance to Trump. So that goes in the safe column. Florida, very similar performance to Trump here. He actually does slightly better than Trump does in 2024 in the state of Florida, given the fact that more than likely registration trends will continue to trend more Republican. That state seems to not be looking back to the Democrat Party, which leaves Vance with 218 safe states right off the gate automatically, which is absolutely insane. And we see here a state like Alaska would also be in the safe Republican column as well. Maine's 2nd Congressional District would also be in the safe Republican column as well at a humongous margin for JD Vance. Looking at the safe Democrat states, California would be in this category here at about 21 points. So a very similar win to Kamala's win here. She'd actually do slightly better in California than Kamala Harris did. Oregon and Washington, if we actually look at these, the Oregon win and Washington wins are actually significantly smaller than the Harris wins here, given the fact that she'd more than likely underperform with college white voters. That is definitely what you're going to be noticing. Vance is going to appeal slightly more to that demographic than most Republicans would, and will kind of stop the bleeding with that group for Republicans in the 2028 election. As of right now, things could definitely change, but that is what I'm noticing. However, these states will still be in the safe Democrat column. Colorado is also going to not be in the safe Democrat column in this forecast. It is actually just an 8.5-point victory for AOC in this forecast, which is very interesting because the state's been moving to the left. It voted for Harris by 11 points, but the one group that I see her struggling with is with Hispanic voters, and that's where you're going to see that humongous problem come. Illinois is about an 11-point win, so a little bit better than Harris did, just a tiny bit better. It does go in the safe Democrat column. Hawaii is also going to be an 18-point win according to this forecast here. Harris wins the state by 23 in 2024. So Vance does make some improvements with Asian American voters. That would be a dynamic shift that you would see take place in this cycle. New York is very interesting because Harris won the state by 12 points, roughly, give or take. And here I have Harris, or AOC, actually only winning it by like 10.8. So it's actually kind of funny, but AOC does do like a point worse than Harris does in 2024, which is very interesting. But again, Vance is winning the popular vote in this election by like about 3.3% according to my demographic estimates. So that's where we're kind of getting these small shifts from. So in one state, you see Vance do a little bit better. One state, AOC does better. So overall, that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Looking at some of these northeastern states, Massachusetts, Maryland, District of Columbia, Virginia, those are completely gone as of right now. We even see, for example, looking at these, I mean, Massachusetts 25-point win in the last election. Here it's about the same, but Maryland does get a little bit smaller. Here it was a 29-point victory for Harris. Here it just comes in at 22 points. I do see Vance outperforming Trump with black voters against AOC, particularly men would be the big problem here. So that's definitely going to be an X factor in this election as well. So we see states like Connecticut. I do believe these would be in the safe Democrat column. Delaware and Connecticut, these would both be safe, but Rhode Island actually wouldn't be in the safe Democrat column. And this is because my model now doesn't just use margins, it actually uses raw vote margins from the battleground states and the trends of the raw votes. So yes, even though Rhode Island typically votes to the left of Connecticut and Delaware, the model is picking up that Rhode Island is actually going to move Republican first before Connecticut or Delaware do, given the raw vote trends from every single county and every single state. So looking at some of the likely states for JD Vance, we're going to be seeing a state like Wisconsin, a 6.6 percentage point win, which is way more Republican than Trump's 0.9 percentage point win in the state of Wisconsin. But somebody like AOC against a Vance, where Vance is a lot more, palatable to the Rust Belt than Trump is. AOC is also very, let's just say very elitist. I mean, she doesn't even know what a garbage disposal is. Like, it is extremely bad. Like, she does not know what a garbage disposal is in a sink, guys. Like, she would not appeal to these voters in the Rust Belt at all. Vance actually wins Ohio by like 18, which is a lot more than Trump's 11-point win here. Iowa is like a 17-point win. So yeah, he does significantly better in this area here. This little area right here, way better in this like corner area of the country right here. That explains his gains in Nebraska and Missouri. Yeah, he does significantly better in the Rust Belt than somebody like a, Donald Trump would. Michigan and Pennsylvania would also be likely in this scenario. AOC would just not appeal to this area at all. We even see North Carolina moved to the right by a couple of points in this scenario as well. So even North Carolina is going to be moving to the right in this scenario. I mean, Trump won the state by 3, and now you see here it's a 5.3 percentage point win. So it basically moves with the nation. Michigan's also like a 6-point win. Trump won it by 1.4. That increase of black voters and non-college whites moving to Vance in this election would definitely help out in the Rust Belt. And I think you would see a really big realignment in this election with somebody like AOC running against a JD Vance. We even see Pennsylvania, another key battleground from 2024, a 2-point win for Trump is now a 5.8 percentage point win for JD Vance. So that's another humongous gain there as well. Another big electoral prize for JD Vance. And this actually gets him across the finish line. He already wins this election with barely even doing anything. He just wins the Rust Belt states, all of the Trump 2020 states, and North Carolina, and he's already the president. And we look at a state like Nevada, which has been moving Republican. Trump won it by 3 points. He nearly won Clark and Washoe, and I think Vance in this election would be winning it very easily. He'd be winning Nevada by about 7.1% according to my election model here. So that's what you're seeing. More than likely, he'd probably be winning Clark County in this election. We could actually even check what he'd be winning here anyway. Let's actually even check and see would he be winning in this hypothetical scenario. More than likely, we would see a place like Clark more than likely end up going. I think you're going to see it here. Yeah, Clark is the first county, and you actually see it here. It's a 1-point win for JD Vance right there. You see a 1-point win for a JD Vance there. So very, very interesting developments out of the state of Nevada. If we go to the other battleground states, which there's plenty of, Maine's first, I forgot to fill in as safe Democrat. Nebraska's second congressional district is very, very interesting because this one is closer than 2024. I mean, it voted for Harris by 4.7. It does get closer as Nebraska at large is a bigger win than what it was in 2024 in this particular forecast. So Nebraska second is effectively a toss-up in this election cycle. And we see a state like Georgia. This is the thing. And Rhode Island, New Jersey, I actually forgot to fill these in. These would be in the likely Democrat column, or at least I think Rhode Island is in the likely Democrat column. We see it right here. Just a 9-point win for AOC. Really, really bad performance there. But I actually think New Jersey is not in the likely column. I was heavily mistaken there. So those are not going to be in the likely column. So here are your kind of toss-up states. Arizona is close to 5 points, but it's not quite there. I think AOC does slightly better with Hispanics against JD than Harris did against Trump, probably by like 1 to 2% nationwide. I think you would see the improvement. So that's why I see like Arizona, along with the college whites kind of moving left. Despite the non-college shift, I think the electorate's going to be more college educated by then. So Arizona doesn't really move that much to the left. It only moves like half a point to the left from 2020. You know, AOC would probably do slightly better in Maricopa, probably like a point better than Trump, than Harris did here, but Vance would kind of make it up in some other parts of the state, more than likely the border of Arizona. That's kind of what you're looking at there. Georgia, on the other hand, I actually think it's going to be a lot more competitive. This one's only a 1.2 percentage point win for Vance. I mean, Trump won the state by 2, almost 2.5. And the problem is those Atlanta suburbs are becoming more African-American. They're moving to the left. And so that's where you're going to be seeing a lot of the movement there for somebody like AOC. So she'd actually massively improve from Kamala Harris in the state of Georgia, and it could more than likely be an effective toss-up in this election, but doesn't really matter because Vance already wins through Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. I don't even think he'd need North Carolina in order to win the election, so that is something really huge for somebody like a JD Vance. Looking at some of these other states, New Mexico is pretty competitive in this one, just a 3.8 percentage point win. It was a 6-point win for Harris in the last election. She lost a lot of ground in some of these rural areas, kind of improved in some of these, you know, Albuquerque sort of white liberal college educated areas. So that's where you kind of saw that. But that's why Colorado also moves to the right, because Colorado and New Mexico kind of have a correlated relationship with each other. And a lot of non-college voters are also in these states. Hence why JD actually improves in a place like Colorado. And JD does technically improve with college whites just a little bit from the 2024 election with Trump. So that's why you're kind of seeing that. And the biggest gains he makes was with non-college whites. That's the group he makes the most gains with, because somebody like AOC would not be able to appeal to those voters at all. Speaking of that, Virginia is just a 3.7 percentage point win in this one. In the last election, it was a 5.8 percentage point win. So it gets 2 points closer. So it basically moves with the nation from 2024. So you're kind of seeing that play out right there. It actually moves more Republican than the nation does from the 2024 popular vote. So Virginia actually trends to the right in this cycle, which is very, very interesting. New Jersey is also another close one. It is only just about a 4.8 percentage point win, just about a point less than 2024, where Trump massively gained in places like Passaic County, where there was a lot of Hispanic gains for Trump. So that was definitely something really big. And somebody like Vance would probably be able to make gains with non-college whites, probably kind of hold even or do slightly worse with Hispanics. That's kind of what I'm thinking for an AOC JD matchup. And we kind of have the last couple states that go over. I mean, Minnesota, I think this one, it would basically be a pure toss-up. She'd do really bad in rural America, but would probably make gains in Hennepin County compared to Kamala Harris. And so the last election, Harris won it by 4. I think it'd probably be a pure toss-up. And in our +3 national environment, it would be a very narrow AOC win. Basically, Minneapolis would say save AOC from losing the state. And you would see states like New Hampshire. This state is gaining more Boston implants. There's a lot more people from Massachusetts and Boston kind of moving to the southern part of New Hampshire. So yes, I think JD does improve from Trump's percentage in the state in raw total votes, in my opinion, but it's not quite enough to flip it. But on the other hand, I actually think that he flips Maine at large in this one, despite it being a 6-point win for Harris in the last election. I think somebody like Vance would be able to improve a lot in Maine, because I think this is his place where he'd actually appeal significantly more than somebody like Trump would here. There's a weird coalition in Maine and New Hampshire. Maine has a lot of sort of, political, dynamics there, but it's also not that big of a raw vote margin. If you actually look at it in total votes, it's really not that big of a raw vote total. It's actually just about roughly a 40 to 50,000 vote win for Kamala Harris in the state of Maine. So it's really not that big of a gap. And I think somebody like Vance would be able to improve significantly. Maybe he doesn't pick up Maine. Maybe it's just a little bit tad bit close here, but overall right now the model does have him picking off Maine at large as that kind of like surprise flip that he'd get in a sort of more landslide type of environment. And so this is the 2028 early matchup against JD and AOC. If you guys have any more suggestions in the comments down below, make sure to leave them there. Make sure to follow me on X, and I will see you guys in the next video.